Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the Enactus Summer Series and, of course, this session specifically on Arla Foods UK. Before I'm going into the agenda, I'll just briefly introduce myself. So my name is Yannick. I joined Arla Foods 3 years ago in September 2019 on the F15 graduate program, which some of you may already be familiar with. And if not, then you'll hear more about that later in the session. And now, since September 2021, I'm working as a sustainability project manager in the UK sustainability team. And with me, I also have Antonia, one of our business managers, Moyo, supply chain strategy manager, and Alex from the talent acquisition team. So they will introduce themselves later in the session. So moving on to today's agenda. Firstly, I'll briefly give you an introduction to Arla Foods. So who are we? And secondly, I will present our sustainability strategy. Now, our sustainability strategy is referred to as Stronger Planet and Stronger People. So I'll explain a little bit more about what that means to us and also share our targets towards carbon net zero and where all the emissions across our value chain come from. We thought that would be quite an interesting topic for the summer series because we really care about sustainability just like you. I can imagine that's only getting higher on everyone's agenda at university too. Then thirdly, Antonia, Moyo and Alex will talk about our graduate scheme. So which graduate schemes do we have both locally and globally at Arla Foods, and also share some of their experiences. And last but not least, we'll also try and save some time for Q&A, but if anything comes up along the way, please also do feel free to write in the chat. So Arla Foods in the UK. Arla Foods, as some of you may already know, it's a global farmer-owned dairy cooperative. You may also know that our roots are actually in Denmark and Sweden. But we also operate internationally from the Dominican Republic to Nigeria to Kuwait and Indonesia. That's, I guess, a fun fact that not that many people are already aware of. And as you can see here on the slide, in the UK, we're actually one of the leading suppliers of fresh milk, but also butter, spreads, cream, and we're one of the largest producers of cheese in the UK. And more than a quarter of our global Arla Group turnover, it comes from the UK. So we're definitely one of the core markets. And the milk intake from our farmers in the UK alone, it's 3.8 billion liters a year. I tried to find a way to make this a bit more tangible. So apparently an Olympic swimming pool, it fits around 2.5 million liters. So just for reference, this 3.8 billion of our milk intake, it could fill more than 15,000 Olympic swimming pools a year. So quite a lot, if you ask me. We're owned by our farmer owners. So there are around 10,000 farmers across 7 countries that own us. And they are across not only the UK, but also Denmark, Germany, Sweden, etc. And being a farmer-owned cooperative, it means that the farmers own us, so you could see them both as our suppliers of the milk, but also as our employees. As our shareholders of the company. So we're not like a shareholder-owned company that makes money for their shareholders, but we're a farmer-owned cooperative. So we make money for our farmers. But as employees, what that means is that we need to ensure that we create as much value as possible from the farmer's milk, and thereby also achieve a competitive milk price for them. And what's interesting to add here is that 1 in 4 British dairy farmers, they own Arla. So if you pass a farm in the UK, then the chances are 1 in 4 that they actually work with us. And they're very passionate about producing high quality milk, but also in a responsible way. And we're of course committed to very high standards of animal welfare, but also product quality, food safety, etc., etc. And that's something that we ensure through our quality program, which is called Arla Garden. And if you're interested in learning more about that, then I can share a link afterwards. Now, as a dairy industry, we have quite a few challenges to face into, but I just wanted to highlight a few of those for context. So firstly, the future of the milk category. Now, the long-term perspective of the UK dairy sector, it really requires all businesses across the entire value chain to achieve sustainable returns. So not only the farmers, but also the dairy processors like us, the manufacturers, and the retailers. Now, when you go to the supermarket, you'll notice that milk is quite cheap, especially if you consider the entire process that the milk or the other dairy products you consume go through from the cow to you, the consumer. And in the last 10 years, consumer prices for most products have actually gone up by more than 20%. Not dairy products, but products in general. But the price of milk, it has actually dropped 7%. But at the same time, the costs on our farms, they're going up significantly. For instance, when it comes to feed, fertilizer, and fuel. And I'm sure that you can also, yeah, kind of experience this inflation yourself when you do groceries, right? So farmers, they're really being squeezed. So if we don't do anything about that, we wouldn't be able to keep up with demand over time. Then secondly, sustainability. As you know, cows, they're a major emitter of methane, and it's probably not a surprise to you that the majority of our greenhouse gas emissions as a company come from our farms. And of course, this needs to be reduced significantly. And I'll go into a bit more detail on that later. Thirdly, we of course also need to secure talent with the right skill set so we can make sure we lead sustainable dairy. And yeah, there's a war for talent. It's a recurring challenge for businesses in the FMCG space. I'm sure also in other industries and companies. They really need to step up to new expectations of you and others by hitting all the right notes in terms of pay, but also flexibility, purpose, culture, you name it. But at Arla, we also see these challenges as opportunities. So then going into sustainability in a bit more detail, because that brings us to our sustainability strategy. But actually, before I tell you about what sustainability means to us, I would be quite curious to hear what sustainability means to you, because actually it can be looked at from quite a lot of different angles. And while for some people it means climate, CO2 emissions, for others it may mean nature, biodiversity. So I don't know if you would be able to unmute. If so, then please feel free to speak up. But if not, then maybe you could write in the chat and answer this question. Antonia says making conscious choices. Yes, very important on a personal level, both at work and at home. That means we can leave for younger generations. Yes, we should definitely try and regenerate, as we say, reducing our carbon footprint as much as we could. Yes, sustainability means caring for the environment in a long-lasting way. Yes, fully agree with all of those. Thanks for sharing, and please do keep them coming if any more thoughts come to mind. Now, in Arla, we don't want to be part of the problem, but part of the solution. And we actually believe that we are and can also continue to be part of that solution by really proving that nutritious, because that's what dairy is, but also sustainable and 1.5 degree aligned dairy is possible. Now, our global vision, it's actually about creating the future of dairy to bring health and inspiration to the world naturally. And on this slide, you can actually see our Future 26 strategy, which was launched earlier this year. It's our company-wide strategy for the next 5 years. And without going into each of the key pillars, you'll actually notice that leading sustainability, it's one of the cornerstones. So it's really at the forefront of our overall strategy as a global company. So to deliver on that vision, we also launched our sustainability strategy, which is called Stronger People, Stronger Planet. And if you wonder what that means, then I would say on the one hand, it's about supporting a stronger planet by improving the environment for future generations, back to some of your comments. And on the other hand, it means empowering stronger people by increasing their access to healthy dairy nutrition and also inspiring good food habits. It also means taking responsibility throughout the entire value chain and really going beyond what's in our own control. So we don't only manage our own emissions, but we also work with our farmer owners, our suppliers, our customers, etc. And the piece that isn't shown on this slide is profit. But as we discussed previously, profit is, of course, critical to sustainability, because unless we make money for our farmers, we don't create an opportunity to support a stronger planet and enable stronger people. Now on the next slide, I have a video, but I think I might just need to reshare to be able to share sound. So I'll quickly do that, and then hopefully you can hear it.
Food is a powerful thing. It has the power to shape the very bodies we live our lives in, and to shape the planet that we and our kids and our grandkids live on. Few other foods possess as much of that power as dairy. Dairy is nutrition and nature in one, as farmers look after the land and keep it healthy, while their cows turn grass into protein, calcium, and many more nutrients needed by a growing population. This is what drives Arla and our farmers, building stronger people and a stronger planet. For us, eating well starts with our farmers, who produce natural, wholesome food that is healthy, sustainable and tasty. Every day, Arla farmers take steps to support and shape Britain's countryside. Our 2,000 family-run farms in the UK have some of the most stretching environmental and welfare standards in the world, all of them working with individual action plans with the aim to make dairy from Arla carbon net zero. With our cooperative values of responsibility and care, we see it as our job to help people to eat well. And it's never been more important for people of all generations to be informed about what they eat. We will fight against food insecurity and food poverty, and seek to inspire and build knowledge on what eating well means, both today and in the future. By enabling people to eat well, we help them embrace life with confidence, making life better through food, powerful food. Arla, for stronger people and a stronger planet.
Okay, so hopefully that worked with voiceover and with some music in the background to help bring it alive a little bit more, because of course it's more interesting to watch a video like this than to just hear me talk for 25 minutes. Now I'll just need to figure out how to get to the next slide again. Here we go. Okay, yeah, watching this video, at least for me, it makes me feel really, really proud to work for Arla. So just to go into a bit more detail, and driven by that vision to support stronger planet and empower stronger people, we made quite a number of commitments on sustainability, which you can see on this slide. So just quickly running through those. Firstly, it's 100% recyclable packaging by 2025. 100% green electricity by 2025, then 63% CO2 reduction in our scope 1 and 2 by 2030, 30% CO2 reduction in our scope 3 by 2030. We're not going to have time to go much into what scope 1, 2, and 3 mean, but if you're interested in learning more about that, I can definitely recommend you to read upon the Science Based Target Initiative. Then 0% virgin fossil plastic, 50% waste reduction in terms of food waste in our processing by 2030. And of course, the headline KPI towards 2050 is carbon net zero. Now, we initially launched our sustainability strategy back in 2019, and that one supported the Paris Agreement's ambition to keep the global temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. So back then we committed ourselves to carbon net zero by 2050, and also a 30% reduction across scope 1, 2, and 3 by 2030, which was in line with that 2 degrees Celsius. But actually now we've raised our commitments to be in line with 1.5 degrees. So that may sound like a small difference, but actually it does make a huge difference, that half degree for our planet. And our revised reduction targets, they've recently been approved by that organization I just mentioned, which is called the Science Based Target Initiative, which is all around science-based targets, which is very important. And we're really proud of being a 1.5 degree aligned dairy business. And of course, we've invested like a lot of time, both across our group and in the UK, to work out how we can deliver it. And I would say that the most important thing we need to do to drive towards that commitment, at least within our own operations across the production sites, it's to decarbonize the energy we use to power them. So as part of that, we're also really pleased to say that we committed to sourcing all of our green electricity from renewable sources as a UK business, and also in the EU by 2025. Now, that 1.5 commitment, it actually means that we are one of the 60 food and drink manufacturers globally, and the first global farmer-owned dairy cooperative to have its 1.5 aligned plans approved by the Science Based Targets initiative. So that's quite impressive, actually. And here you can see how we compare to some of the other dairy companies out there, as well as other FMCG companies. So you could say that we're on a journey when it comes to sustainability, but we're not starting from scratch. We have a really, really strong foundation to build from. And our achievements so far, they create that platform from where to build even further. So as Arla, but again, also as a UK business, we've already made lots of progress. And the progress that we have made, it also means that our footprint per liter of milk, it's around half the global average. So the data actually tells us that across our European business, raw milk is produced with average emissions of 1.15 kilos of CO2 per kilo of milk. And in Arla UK, that's even lower. It's 1.13. So yeah, even less. And while not all the methodologies used across the globe are the same, if we look at the closest comparison, that does equate to around half the global emissions, and also less than the UK average, because the UK average is 1.25. So we're still well below that. And of course, that's the result of many, many years of hard work and expertise from our Arla farmers to manage their soil, their crops, their animals, but also their businesses in general, to produce dairy in the most efficient as well as sustainable way. And often that actually goes hand in hand. So again, I think that's something for our farmers to be proud of, but also for us as Arla employees, and yeah, even for you as Arla consumers. So moving on to the next slide, if the screen allows me to. Yes. Then I just wanted to finish by saying that in the UK, our sustainability work, it focuses on 6 pillars of activity, which you can see here. So on farm, it's about empowering farmers to adopt more sustainable farming practices. Then in our production, it's about our dairy production sites, where we need to drive progress towards carbon net zero sites. So that's a lot about the energy we use there. Then in logistics, it's about building a net zero logistics network, for instance, by moving to alternative fuels. Then packaging, this is all around optimizing our packaging types to increase the recyclability, but also to eliminate virgin fossil plastic. So how can we do that? It's actually by either using more recycled content or bio-based plastics, or even move away from plastics and actually go for fiber-based materials. So that could be, paper. Then food waste. Of course, when it comes to food waste, we need to limit our internal waste, again, at the production sites, to give an example. But we also want to help our consumers to reduce waste in their own homes by sharing tips, etc. And of course, the retailers, the supermarkets, to reduce waste at their end as well. And last but not least, when it comes to the health agenda, we try to support our consumers as much as possible to choose a healthy and sustainable diet. And as part of the wider UK sustainability team, we actually have a lead on each of those pillars. But of course, we also work very closely with our global organization, where we have lots of experts and specialists on each of those. So I thought of going through some example activities within each of those pillars. But I actually think it could be interesting to hear about the graduate schemes and Moyo and Antonia's experiences first, and then if you would like to go into a bit more detail, we can of course go back at the end and take that as part of the Q&A. But maybe to finish off, one more question to you from me. What causes our on-farm emissions? Now, a lot of you will know that it comes from methane, from digestion, but do you think that they come from the back or the front of the cow? Maybe again, just write in the chat and guess. Front, back, anyone else? Would have guessed back, probably wrong. Back. Okay, I'll just show you. So if we compare the back to the front, you can actually see that most of it comes from the front of the cow. So it's the burps. But of course, there are other key areas as well that cause emissions on farm. So for instance, feed, the emissions from what the cow eat, what the cows eat, and also the way in which their manure is managed. And there are more areas. But let's move on to the graduate scheme. So I'll just skim through these. Again, if any questions, please write in the chat or unmute, or feel free to reach out after this session. But I think in the interest of time, I'll just hand over to you. Oops, sorry, that was a bit too quick. Hand over to you, Alex, for an introduction on our graduate schemes. Just let me know when to click to the next one.
Perfect, thank you, Unique. So hi everyone, so just as a quick intro to me, I'm Alex Tyrrell. I'm a member of the UK talent team, some senior partner. Basically my remit is to support the supply chain recruitment. But just obviously going into the Arla Foods graduate programs, if you could just skip to the next page, please. Basically, we have 5 main routes into this. Unique did mention the first one there, so the F15 Future Leaders. So this really is one of our main graduate programs, really is an accelerated program to basically get our best and brightest into leadership positions. This really does cover kind of all our functions, obviously from sustainability through commercial, HR, finance, and eventually, obviously, these members do end up all around the world. Next is our production management one, which focuses on more our manufacturing side or the supply chain. Next is finance. After that will be commercial sales and then marketing. So next one, please. So a bit further detail of the F15. So this is our global graduate program. This is based out of our head office in Denmark. It would be a 2-year program and basically consists of 3 8-month rotations. And obviously during that time, you will be based either in different locations around the globe or obviously in different functions. Again, this covers all our areas, commercial operations, marketing, finance, supply chain, sales. In terms of the actual program themselves, we typically advertise around November. So these will be coming up soon. And then the typical start date would be September, the following September. I mean, in terms of typical process, it would be a 2-stage interview process. Where obviously you submit an application, you would do a Teams call, and obviously then you would be invited into to site for a full interview. Next slide, please. So next slide would be the financial graduate scheme. So this is based in our UK office, so our UK head office in Leeds. Again, this is a 3 different rotation over 3 years. Again, we hope you touch all different areas. So commercial finance, logistics finance, pricing and milk pricing, and production finance. So production finance would be site-based. And I mean, historically, these will be advertised around about Q1, so January, March. And obviously then a thorough process would take place for you to start in September following obviously graduation. Next would be our production management. So this would be site-based, and obviously this is kind of to interface you into our manufacturing sites. There are a range of options, whether it be obviously logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, continuous improvement. These would typically be based out of Denmark. Again, you will be site-based across our EU regions. It's a 2-year program, and obviously that would include 6-month rotations. We do hope you would obviously experience different sites, whether it be cheese, butter or milk manufacturing, and often or not, we do actually try and give people the opportunity to visit different sites as well. I think it's great to get a difference of opinions in terms of cultures, sites, and obviously you can experience Arla for the fullest. We typically advertise these in December, again with a view to start after your graduation in September. So commercial sales, similarly to the finance, this is UK based. Again, it will be a 2-year program. Again, with all our kind of graduate programs, we do kind of facilitate the rotation. So you do obviously see the different areas of a department. Again, we would advertise these around Q1, so January to March, and then obviously a view will be September start. Again, so the marketing graduate program would be Leeds based. Again, it is a 2-year program with obviously rotation. That would be across brands and categories, whether it obviously be milk, B.O.B, butter, or obviously the cheese side. Again, advertised in March or January to March with a view to start in September based out of our Leeds head office. Oh, we finished. So just one more point I'd like to point out on the graduate programs is, I mean, in terms of kind of success, there are a number of instances where our graduates have gone on to be senior level managers, director positions. So obviously the view would be, obviously with our graduate programs, you'd get as much experience during that graduate program as possible. I think obviously then at that point you would get an option of what kind of area you preferred to join, and obviously then the option would then be given to you. So yeah, like I said, there would obviously certainly be some good progression with our graduate programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Antonia Chamberlain, and I've been working at Arla Foods for 3 years now as well. So I actually started on the commercial graduate scheme 3 years ago. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of sort of my journey at Arla so far and my current role. So I studied at the University of Manchester. I did a management and marketing degree. And between my 2nd and 3rd year, I did a summer internship at a marketing agency, which I'm sure many of you are in the position doing now. I then joined Arla in 2019 on the commercial sales graduate scheme. And one of the things that really appealed to me about that scheme was the variety and the breadth that you get. So every 10 months, I moved into a completely different area of commercial sales that I knew very little about, but it was a fantastic opportunity for me to get experience in lots of different areas to help decide where I wanted my ultimate permanent role to be in. So one of the first rotations I had was in the food service team. So this was looking after big wholesalers and cash and carries. So Brakes, Booker, Costco, you may have heard of. I then moved into my second rotation, which was in category and shopper marketing. So in this team, I was responsible for Marks and Spencer's cheese category review. I also looked after some shopper marketing for Asda. So I was very involved. You don't take a backseat on this grad scheme. You definitely have lots of different opportunities to get involved and really drive the agenda forward. My final rotation, I was in the e-commerce team, and I also looked after some retail. So I was managing Boobs, who are a northern premium retailer, and then finally Amazon Fresh, who have multiple stores in London that I'm sure some of you may have tried. So I finished the graduate scheme in February this year, and then I moved into my permanent role as a business manager. So in Arla, we refer to them as business managers, but you may have heard of the role of an account manager. I work in the food service team. So the food service team manages the customers that are restaurants, pubs, takeaways, cafes. It's anywhere you would go out to eat or drink. So my role in the end user team is aligned to pizza customers. So I spend a lot of my time talking about mozzarella. So it's really exciting because I manage Pizza Hut in 12 different countries. I'll be very impressed if you can name every single one of those flags. So the likelihood is if you're going out to have your Pizza Hut before the cinema, that will be Arla mozzarella. I also manage Domino's in the UK as well, who are a new customer to us, lots going on with them. And I think one of the things that I find really exciting about this role is that you are out with customers all the time, lots of events. And as I'm sure you can see from the pictures in the bottom right-hand corner, we work hard, but we do have a lot of fun, and there's lots of socialising as well. So if anyone's got any questions at all about the commercial graduate scheme, please do put them on the chat and I'll happy to answer any question. I think I'm handing over now.
Great. Hi everyone, I'm Moyo, I'm Nigerian, and fun fact, my name means I'm happy, and I'm usually happy, so that's a good thing. In terms of my background, I studied at Bath, I studied for a master's in chemical engineering, and then took a year's placement where I worked for Heineken as an engineer. Decided engineering really wasn't for me, so I moved to the Netherlands to study for a second master's degree in business at TS Business School. I joined Arla 3 years ago tomorrow, So I'm joined on the same day as Yannick, so that's quite exciting. And started off in Denmark as an innovation manager. So I worked with milk-based beverages. So that's your Starbucks that you buy in the supermarkets and chocolate drinks. So what I really did around that was being the project lead for when we needed to launch new innovations. So across the Middle East, North Africa. So that was quite exciting. And then I moved to Sweden, where I was a CapEx project manager. So CapEx stands for capital expenditure, so big investment. And there it was working on the site to replace a butter line on the site and invest in new technology. So that was up to 30 million euro, that total investment. And so it was quite a big deal, but it was very exciting being sort of trusted to lead that, but also having the support when needed, because I was quite new to it. So enjoyed life in Sweden. This was also during COVID, so it was quite interesting, sort of, being in Sweden where there really wasn't a lockdown while the rest of the world was, reacting differently. Very interesting experience. And then I came to the UK to work in a finance role. So it was very much around sustainable packaging and how we would, as a business, would choose to react to new legislation coming up. So understanding what the impact would be for the business with the plastic tax, for instance, and how we could mitigate some of those costs. So that was also quite an interesting insight into how we work with government on sustainability. 2 years later, 2 years from when I joined, I moved back to Denmark to offboard into a role. So it was a supply chain strategy manager role. So that was at the time when we're launching a new strategy called Future 26. So very exciting to be part of that process and also be presenting to our executive management team on what our strategy would be and how we would develop a supply chain fit for the future. So I also enjoy that. And I think one thing I would say with Arla is that there's lots of opportunity to move around if that's something you're interested in, because I did that role for a year and decided I wanted to try something new. So I recently just come back to the UK where I'm a program manager. And what I'm working on now is developing our milk strategy for the next 10 years. So our transformation strategy. Where do we want to play? Who do we want to play with? And how do we want to develop our portfolio so that we have more value add in our mix? So that's quite an interesting piece of work to be doing. What have I done in Arla? What has my Arla journey also given me outside work? So I was privileged to be able to write for the Financial Times about my time in Aarhus, Denmark when I was there. So that was just really cool. I think that's the perks of being an expert. You get cool opportunities like this. And the picture on the bottom left is when I was in Nigeria on the dairy aisle. So just looking at some of our products. So we tend to sell milk powder. So that's just holding sachets of milk powder, in Lagos, Nigeria. And then on the bottom right, just time in Denmark last winter. So it was really cold, the coldest condition I've ever been in, and thankfully managed to survive as an African. So that's a win for me. But I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about Arla and the graduate program. Would highly recommend though. But that's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks everyone. And yes, I would also definitely recommend the F15 program. Moyo and I were actually in the same batch. I'm not going to present about my journey here, but it was definitely very, very exciting working across Dubai, Denmark, Sweden, and now of course in the UK. So definitely, lots of opportunities to move around, both in terms of location as well as function. So I see there have already been some questions in the chat. I think most of them have already been answered in terms of like our remote opportunities. Catherine said, yes, we do have a flexible and hybrid working approach. So we do support remote working, of course, depending on the role, but as long as you can come to the office every now and then for team meetings. That should be a possibility. And then Adam asked about the opportunities to get involved in volunteering. So Antonia already said, yeah, there are lots. I don't know if you want to elaborate on some of your experiences there, Antonia. You may have tried more volunteering initiatives than we have, at least in the last few months, maybe also due to COVID. But recently we did, as a UK sustainability team, also visit a recycling plant, and next week we're actually going to do a day of volunteering at Fair Share, the food bank. But yeah, Antonia, do you want to put a few more words to your experience there?
Yeah, of course, happy to. So put quite a long message in the chat, but just to elaborate on it, is we have loads of internal volunteering opportunities that are led by Arla that we drive. So a lot of these are charitable drives, sustainability ones as well. And then externally, depending on which customers you're aligned to, there will always be customer related volunteering for you to get involved in. So me and my team volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House Charity in Manchester a few weeks ago. They are based at hospitals and they provide housing for people who have children in hospital. I've also volunteered at a Greg's Foundation Breakfast Club, which actually did require me to dress up as a cow and make toast for everyone. So there's lots to get involved in. And if there's something going on that you want to lead internally, there's always the forum for you to start doing that internally in Arla as well, if it's not there at the moment.
Nice, thanks, Antonia. And yeah, fully agree. There are lots of different things that you can get involved with next to your day-to-day role as well, as long as you take the initiative and make the time for it, right? Then there was also a question around opportunities for Arla to collaborate with the master's PhD project on sustainable packaging and bio-based packaging. Personally, I don't know whether there are any opportunities on those topics specifically, but I can mention that recently in our UK sustainability team, we did have a master's student join us for 10 to 12 weeks on a sustainability consulting project. So he was looking into a different topic, which was actually around food poverty, but I'm sure there could be opportunities to do something like that on other topics as well. I don't know if Alex or you, Catherine, would like to elaborate a little bit on the opportunities there with student projects from an HR perspective.
From my side, I'm not sure if it's something we have done too much of, but obviously certainly willing to ask the question and get involved as much as possible.
Definitely. Great, thanks. And then Adam was just asking, what are some of the most innovative sustainability focused projects at Arla? Well, I think there are so many, it would be really, really difficult to pick 1, 2, or 3 of the most innovative. But if I just go back a few slides, then maybe I can put a few words to one of the key projects in our farm pillar. One of the things that I believe is quite transformational and that we've been doing on farm already for a few years, but are gathering more and more insights around, is that we have one of the world's largest externally validated climate data sets from our dairy farm. So around 8,000 of our farmers from all the different European countries that they're in, they've assessed and submitted data to more than 200 questions about climate on their farm. So for instance, like about the herd, but also the feed production, the energy they use, etc. And they've done that through our climate check tool, which is an online tool where they can submit answers to all these questions, and that will then help determine what the CO2 footprint is on their farm. Now, all that data has actually been verified by external climate advisors, and they then also help the farmers to create a personalized action plan to further reduce their climate emissions based on their individual data. So through that, we've been able to also identify the top levers to help us reach our climate target. And each of the farmers now has a plan on how to reduce their emissions. So in order for us to help the farmers reduce their emissions through these levers, we're also running lots of different research projects, lots of different pilots And I would definitely say that's that's very innovative, because we haven't actually seen anything like that in any other of our competitors in the dairy industry. But if we go, for instance, to production, we're also working on lots of different solar projects to deliver our ambition there on the 100% green electricity. So we're installing roof-mounted solar systems, but we're also building solar systems that are directly wired into our sites. Now, this may be something that any company could be doing, right? But we are doing it. And then here I've kind of blanked the one on the left out, because I didn't think I was going to have time to talk through each of the initiatives. But another example here that I thought was definitely quite an innovative sustainability project was the Poo Power project. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can Google it. We've also been on some TV programs with it, but essentially it's all about collecting cow manure, so the poo from the farms, put it into a biogas facility to produce biogas that can then be used in our logistics truck. So it's all about circularity. And this is also definitely something new that we have tried out. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into some different examples of things that we're working on. And then Antonia also said we've been doing really exciting work on sustainable packaging and making the supply chain fully circular. Do you want to give some examples of projects you've been involved with, Antonia?
Yeah, I can do. So not one I've been directly involved with, but I'm sure some of you buy Lurpak. So recently we did launch our Lurpak butter box, which is a fully recyclable cardboard packaging for butter. So that's something that's not on the market at the moment, and we're massively driving that agenda forward through our packaging work. And there's a lot going on internally to see what further improvements we can make from a packaging perspective. And then I guess from a supply chain view, very much work in progress, but we're always looking to see what we can do to make our supply chain as carbon efficient as possible. And by the term circular, everything we're releasing, we want to recapture that to make sure that we're we're being more considerate in our use of energy from solar panels. And I don't know, Yannick, if you've got anything further you can add from a logistics perspective.
There are lots of different initiatives within logistics as well, but I guess as a starting point, we're moving to alternative fuels, so that could be biofuels in our trucks, both when it comes to inbound logistics, so when we pick up the milk from the farms to our production sites, but also the finished product from the production site to the supermarket, which we call outbound logistics. And of course, we can do everything within our own control for our own trucks, but we also work with third-party logistics providers. And of course, that's not in our direct control, but they still contribute to our Scope 3 emissions. So we are also working really, really closely with our external providers to make joint plans and ensure that they convert their trucks as well. And when it comes to outbound logistics, and we're only driving relatively short distances, that could also include, for instance, looking at electric vehicles. Lots of different routes that we're already exploring, but also doing more research on for the future if the solution isn't there yet. And that holds for all different areas, so not only logistics, but also in packaging, for instance. And then Moyo just added, we've recently established a sustainability team within supply chain. Yes. And their job is pretty much to identify and implement innovative industry-leading solutions to enable us to lead on sustainability. Yes, great. Thanks, Moyo. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit further as well.
Yeah, so I think it's a team that was launched sometime last year and is growing massively. So, and it's looking across the entire value chain. And one of the things, or one of the areas the team has been looking at, especially with the crisis in Ukraine and Russia, is how do we react to that and make sure we can still utilize energy sources that can be sustainable but is also ethical. So I think that's something definitely on the forefront of our minds. So how we can remain sustainable and be a leader in the VUCA world. So it's very volatile, complex, changing. So yeah, I think it definitely sends the right signal across the organization that this is something we're passionate about and this is an area we want to lead on. So I think that's quite cool.
Definitely, yeah. It's yeah, I think it's quite, I mean, of course, I've worked with Arla for the last 3 years, so I guess you could say I'm quite biased and I don't have that much experience working with other companies. But having said that, it's very much integrated in all functions in Arla. And from my perspective, at least when I talk to friends or others who work at different companies, yeah, we're quite ahead of the curve. Also, when it comes to upskilling our internal employees and colleagues across all different functions, because regardless of whether you work in the sustainability team or finance or IT, there's something that all of us can do to contribute to that journey. So that's super exciting to see and be part of.
Sorry to interrupt, Unique. I got a a little while ago I got a message from one of the students about something that Moya said earlier, where the student said, you mentioned there are opportunities to move around within Arla. Does that include internationally as well as between different departments within the organization?
Yes. Yeah, the answer to that is yes. So I've done a country move recently, 4 or 5 weeks ago. So moved from Denmark to the UK and also moved teams at the same time. So from supply chain to business development. So I think there are definitely opportunities around that. And I think it's also because we're an organization that sees value in different cultures. So we want to sort of take that learning across board. So yeah, I would say the answer is yes. And I'm an example, so.
Yeah. I actually have a question of my own, if it's okay, if we've got time just to squeeze it in. There was something that was mentioned earlier about you obviously giving a Teams interview followed by an in-person interview. Now, with everything that's happened over the last few years, a lot of our students have not had loads of experience of doing kind of in-person stuff, like in-person interviews or presenting in person. Can you give any advice to kind of giving an in-person interview or an in-person presentation as opposed to a virtual one, and how you would approach it differently, or what tips you could give?
I mean, obviously from my side in recruiting, I mean, the best advice possible is just be yourself is the biggest thing. Obviously, I think from a standpoint of an individual, obviously we would hire an individual more than the qualifications. It's how that person comes across. So yeah, obviously just trying to be yourself as much as possible, but also obviously just spend quite a lot of time in terms of researching the organisation, the area you're looking to apply to, and often or not, obviously that is linked to your education. So you should obviously have that background. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is being yourself, and obviously just being natural in the interview. Obviously, I know it can be quite daunting, and often or not, obviously, when you do kind of give a bit of advice of, look, obviously be yourself, it can be brushed off. But again, I think that is the biggest thing, getting your own personality across. So yeah, and obviously just kind of showing that you are willing to develop. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just obviously just try and be prepared. If you have an interview, let's say in 2 weeks, obviously just start preparing straight away. And obviously then you can always add to it as you go along. Obviously, I think the worst thing you could do is leave it to the last minute, and then obviously you can get yourself in a bit of a panic. So yeah, biggest things would be yourself, and just obviously try and prepare as much as possible.
Can I build on that, Alex?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, definitely agree with everything you said. And perhaps what I would add is also practice. So different people have different ways of doing it. So it's either you could stand in the mirror and just, answer standard interview questions and just get comfortable doing that, or practicing with a friend, or record yourself and then watch it back so that you can, just see how that feels. And I would definitely agree that Arla hires for personality. So be yourself. I know it sounds very yeah, it's a cliche, but I remember so I had an assessment center and I remember telling a joke. So you know how they're dad jokes. I also have Moyo jokes. And I was like, oh my goodness, why did I just say that? But yeah, I was teasing the interviewer. Imagine doing that. And yeah, I still ended up getting an offer. So yeah, I think it's just, yeah, let your personality shine through. That would be my build.
Great. Perfect. Any final question? Otherwise, I think, yeah, we're getting to 4 p.m. So would you, yeah, want to close off, Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Unique. If there are any more questions while I'm speaking, just pop them in the chat and we can maybe got time just to answer them just before we finish. But just before we do, I just want to say a massive thank you to Arla, of course, and to Unique, Alex, Antonia, Moya, and Catherine for being with us on the call today. It's been so interesting to see all the different elements, all the different parts of Arla and all the initiatives Arla are involved with. And as you said earlier, it's all about being part of the solution. And I think kind of uniquely, Arla as an organization kind of almost like uniquely placed within the supply chain to make that happen. And it's really exciting to kind of get a bit of insight into that aspect of things. And thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for joining, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Friday for the next Employability Summer Series session with British Airways, no less. So until then, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from everybody else. So bye-bye, everybody.